Hello everyone. In this video, I'll be covering demo problem for finding the area of the quarter circle which has radius of 2. Let's first talk about the area of the entire circle. That would be pi r squared, which is 3.14 into 2 squared, which is 4, correct? So what is the area of the quarter circle? That's going to be this quantity divided by 4, which is nothing but pi. What we are going to do now is we are going to determine the approximate area of the quarter circle by finding rectangles that cover that quarter circle. We are going to find area of each of those rectangles and sum up all of those areas in order to determine the approximate area for the quarter circle. The loop condition variable is going to run from 0 through 2. The loop increment itself is going to give you the value of the width of each of those rectangles. How can we compute the height of the rectangle? Let me show you one way to do that. You can determine the angle of this particular triangle that gets formed between x and y here by using the arc cos function, which is part of the math module. Once you have the angle computed, you can use the sine function, which is again part of the math module, to determine the sine of that angle and multiply that by radius value. Let me switch to Jupyter Notebook and let's start defining variables for this particular problem. I'm going to define width as W so that it's easy for me to type. Please use more descriptive names like width. I'm going to initialize W to 1. For now, let's just have an increment value of 1 here, which will enable us to get two different rectangles, correct? So let's initialize the loop condition variable, which is x, to a value of 0. And I'm going to define a variable for the radius of the circle here so that we can run our program for other circle radius as well. I'm going to say radius equal to 2. And the while condition which I'm going to write is while x is less than or equal to radius. What do I want to do inside my while loop? I want to increment the value of x by w because I want to run my while loop for every single rectangle here. Let's run the current version of the code. Looks like we are getting 0, 1, 2. What if I change width to 0.1? Looks like we are getting more values because we'll get more iterations for this particular while loop. Let's try to determine the angle using the formula that I just covered. So for doing that, we need to import the math module. Good practice would be for you to always include import statements as part of the initial few cells of your notebook file. That's because somebody who's trying to read your program can very easily determine what are the required modules. So I can add a new cell above the current cell by pressing escape on my keyboard, and I can press A, which is going to add a cell above the current cell. I'm going to use import math style of import. Alternative to adding the cell above with A key on your keyboard, you can also go to insert and click on insert cell above. Let me run the import math line here. After that, I'm going to go back to the program and let's start typing the angle calculation, which is going to be math dot a cos of x divided by radius, and then y is simply going to be math dot sine of angle into radius. How do we determine the area of rectangle? I'm going to define a variable called rect underscore area. The width of the rectangle is given by w and the height of the rectangle is given by y, correct? Eventually we want to add up all of these areas, but for now let's just print the area that we determine for the rectangles here. I'm going to remove the print function call from line 10 here. Looks like we are getting an approximate area for each of those rectangles here, correct? Sorry, an actual area for each of those rectangles, correct? Let's define a variable called total underscore area outside the while loop, and I'm going to initialize that to 0. Every time we compute a new rectangle area, we just want to keep adding that to total underscore area variable. I'm going to do that by saying total underscore area plus equal to the current rectangle area. Let me display total underscore area as the last line of this particular cell. Looks like we're getting 3.22, which is close enough. How can we get a better estimate? We can lower down the width of each of those rectangles. So you can make the rectangles as thin as possible so that we will be able to determine the approximate area of the quarter circle as well as possible. So I'm going to lower the width down to 0.1. That gives us 3.15. What if I add one more 0? That gives us 3.14. You can try adding one more 0. It's going to take more time for the computer to keep executing the program as you keep making your iterations higher by lowering down your width value here. So let me add in one more 0, and looks like we are getting 3.1416, which is very close to the value of pi here. I'll wrap up this video here. In the next video, we'll go through next demo problem.